What is up? What's up, people? Week 12, sixth man. We're here. Trouble in the royal family, everyone. But there's no trouble here. We're all friends. So All-Star has just finished. A lot of us stayed up last night. Had a day off, so that was very lucky. That is the problem with being a British basketball fan, and something that probably will never change. But oh well, got to grind on. Did we all enjoy All-Star? All good?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You did see.
good.
Yeah.
Definitely made it till 4:30.
Yeah, rough, very rough, considering they all jam-packed it into one evening. But yeah, went pretty good. But we're going to talk about that later. Now, what do we do on the sixth man? We talk about two divisions, and we are going to talk about the Southeast first. And we're going to keep it in a home base and a home team. And we're going to start off where we actually covered some breaking news that happened last week, and we're going to talk about it in further detail. We're going to head to the place that, doesn't stop. COVID hasn't shut it down. Things are still running as usual. It's the Atlanta Hawks. Wally, take it away.
Yeah, which is a scary thought when we host the All-Star weekend. But hey ho, it would seem to be a good success. We had went 2-0 this week. These are the first two games where we had Nate McMillan running the show instead of Lloyd Pierce. As you quite rightly said, we obviously covered that last week. 2 games, one against the Heat. Trey always likes to get hot in the fourth against the Heat and kill them, steal those wins. Thank you very much, Bray. And then taking the win against Orlando as well. A few days after Lloyd Pierce got fired, there was a piece that came out in The Athletic, I think, which was basically breaking down about how none of the young guys on the team, which is a lot of people, weren't very keen on Lloyd Pierce as a coach, which, that's a bit tough. Sort of like to see anybody get slandered too much when, they put the time in and stuff. But as a result, we're now 2-0. Now that we got Nate McMillan, there's definitely going to be like this sort of honeymoon period where, everything is all good and guys are playing strong.
Yeah, so if nobody knows, Lloyd Pierce got fired last week, and we obviously broke the news thanks to Ed's notification of Bleacher going off, which is really interesting. He is 2-0 this week, which is how ironic is that? Team's not doing so well. They win a couple of games and, it's suddenly all sorted.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about, you finding a permanent replacement.
Yeah.
Wally, do you think that could be Nate McMillan? I've seen other potential candidates. You've got Becky Hammond or David Vanderpool, who obviously was famously snubbed for the Timberwolves job from Dame and CJ's outcry. Who would you like to see going forward? Who do you think potentially are we missing out someone, or am I missing someone?
No, I mean, not to my knowledge. I think that you covered some good people there in terms of potential guys to step up. It's ultimately, I mean, obviously Nate has been there the whole time as the assistant coach. So how much of the dislike towards Lloyd Pierce has trickled into Nate McMillan? He was obviously part of that staff. So whether Nate was somebody the guys liked more, remains to be seen really. But ultimately, it's going to come down to who Trey wants, really. Things with John is just constantly on the rumor mill. So how much they're going to want to listen to him is neither here nor there, really. At the moment, one of the teams that are sort of on the rumor mill is the Timberwolves, which is a bit of a bummer because we're not going to get back Cat for him. And it's like, I don't want anyone else from there. I think the problem is with John, and I'm sort of obviously going off track here a little bit, is that he is getting more and more obvious that he doesn't want to play with us, and I feel like we're not going to get back what we deserve from him. But the problem is we can't do nothing because then he'll just leave anyway, and then we get nothing at all. So it's a bit of a rock and a hard place situation. But one of the things with Trey, I just wanted to say, in terms of his shot selection, has been way better. He's still taking deep range threes, but he's doing it in the fourth. He's not doing it early in the shot clock, so he's surveying the floor a lot better. And once teams are playing off of him, the scouting report must be that, hey, he's coming down and pulling up. After the first few seconds, then he'll settle into the offense and they'll run something normal. Now they seem to be stepping off of him for some reason. So later on in the shot clock, he has much clearer shot at it, and it's just working a lot better because it's making defenses work harder than him just running down and jacking it up in the first 7 seconds of an offense.
Yeah, I think that was really evident in the Heat game. He hit 2 really deep threes in the fourth, and then if you look in the Magic game, that was a very back and forth game. And Tony Snell actually hit a huge shot for you guys in the corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, wow, where has this guy come from? And then Trey obviously hits the game-winning 3 throws. And, Magic, I think it was Terrence Ross, he misses the game-winning floater. So you guys survive on that one. But a win's a win.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think Bray liked the mention of Tony Snell.
Tony Snell's a ball, man. He's an original ball. Drafted him. He's had some dead haircuts over the years, but he's an NBA player, man. He's not who he played for, guy. Tony Snell's a baller.
Oh, okay. Oh, I misread your face there. I agree. I thought you weren't liking the shout out.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see who you guys get in full time, but hopefully the Hawks can continue on this trajectory anyway of recent form. Another team which has sort of turned around their season, to be honest, and since we last spoke about them, they're in the playoff race, is the Washington Wizards. So, Lancashire Lambert, talk to me about the nation's capital. What's going on there?
Yeah, the Wizards have turned it around. They're 1-for-1 this week. However, overall, they've won 14, lost 20, but it's the last 10 games where they've really shown that. They've won 7 of the last 10, and they're now really in that chasing pack to really challenge for that play-in spot and maybe even that 8th place and finish out right in the top 8. But to be honest, top 10 is all that matters really if they win both of those play-in games. This week, loss against the Grizzlies. I'll take that. Since they're a team within my GM, and a great win against the Clippers, winning by 2 points. Bradley Beal scored 33 points. Westbrook very close to a triple-double. And Westbrook is someone who has obviously, at the start of the season, everyone was slandering him a bit, including me. Seems to be someone who's just chasing stats. And something that I'd found interesting, and I actually had a look. He's got 10 triple-doubles this season. His first 5, the Wizards lost all of those games. His most recent 5, the Wizards has won all of them. So it seems to me that whatever he's doing, it's having much more of an effect on how the team's playing, and they're getting those results, and it's paying off.
Let's talk about Russ. His stat line, always really good. 20 points per game. 9.7 rebounds a game, 9.8 assists per game. He's averaging 4.8 turnovers per game, and his shooting splits 42% from field goal, 29% from free, and 58% from the line. I mean, what stands out from you there? There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot. The one that stands out to me is obviously that 58% from the line. He's a guy who's shot about 80% from the line in his career, and all of a sudden it's just dropped off out of nowhere. I can't put my finger on it why, but he's obviously averaged a triple-double in his last 3 seasons at OKC. Took a little 1 year off in Houston, and he looks like he could well do it again this year. Based on his current performances. And it's having an effect on the team, like I said. And another thing that I want to talk about with the Wizards, in these last 10 games that they've won 7 of them, they haven't beaten mugs either. They've beat the Nuggets twice, they beat the Blazers, the Lakers, they split 2 games with the Clips. They're actually the only 3 defeats were against the Clippers, my Grizzlies, and a 1-point loss to the Celtics, in which they kind of threw that game away. Bradley Beal was unfortunate to slip and fall out of bounds, and Tatum gets a layup right at the end. So it could have been even better. Yeah,
Matt, that's a great point, because that West road trip, they went 3-1 on the road, and you've seen teams who are supposed to be top tier. Philly went 1-3. We've really struggled, so that's really encouraging for the Wizards.
Yeah.
So, like you said, 7-3 in the last 10. Let's make a prediction here. The Wizards are currently 2 games out of the playoff spot. Are they making the playoffs?
I think they'll probably finish. They'll be in at least 10th, I think. So they'll be in the play-in tournament.
But do you think they win that play-in tournament? Do you think they end up in the final seedings?
At the end of the day, they only have to win 2 games, don't they, to get into the playoffs? They only have to win 2 games on the bounce, and yeah, literally the point that you just made, like they can go and win those games against the big teams. So there's no reason why they can't go to a Miami or something if they're in 6th or 7th or something and get a win or this. Like Bray's looking like that, but I'm not wrong. Yeah, and he knows.
I disagree, but I'll get to that later.
Yeah, well, the Wizards have turned it around, so that's really good. And the fact of Bradley Beal, I know we always talk about him moving team. They're getting some wins. He's staying put. It's definitely interesting plot. Let's head out to Charlotte, who are 1-1 this week. They're 17-18 overall. They are also another team within that cluster of playoff seedings in the East. There is so much going on there. George, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. Like you said, there's a lot going on in the East. There's some saucy battles towards that end, towards the play-in tournament. But yeah, 1-1 this week. Overall, 5-5 in the last 10. So it's been a bit of a tricky one for them. It's been very up and down with the games, like win one, lose one straight after. So it's been shaky on that point overall. With that, their overall record now stands at 17-18. So they've made up quite a bit of ground since we last spoke about them. And now with that made up ground, they've actually pushed themselves up to the 7th position, which is great news, which I'm extremely happy about. But unfortunately on their part, with the current run of win-loss, they're not quite at that 500 percentage, which they're looking for. They've missed out on those opportunities there. But yeah, there's been fun stories coming out of there. Of course, LaMelo breaking record after record, and like records which I don't even know existed as records. But yeah, he's still coming out with them. Of course, he also got that nickname Airbnb with Bridges,
like that.
which I loved. I
like that.
loved that nickname.
Did you hear what Michael Jordan said?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, that he's exceeded the expectations. They're blowing that out of proportion.
Exactly, and I feel like Michael Jordan's really happy, because I remember back when he drafted him, everyone was like, "What is Michael Jordan doing? He's terrible at drafting. He shouldn't be an owner."
We all know he's terrible at drafting.
Right, he struck out so many times.
And that made it personal for me.
Yeah, George, I'm gonna switch this up and talk about the Hornets in the clutch. So interesting fact is that they are 11-5 when the score is within 5 points and there's under 5 minutes to play. We talk about Scary Terry. They've got a lot of guys who can get you a bucket, but if you were the coach, if you were Borrega, who are you going to in the clutch? Who are you giving the ball to?
In my mind, like you've already said his name, like so far, stats-wise, Scary Terry has proven, I think he's like the most proficient performer on their team, especially, let me reword that, sorry. He's a really proficient performer on their team, especially in the final moments of the game. That's when he seems to kick it into a completely new gear. And you can see it on the highlights game after game. I can't remember which game it was, but he managed to score that fadeaway 3 in the corner, which was absolutely insane. Can you remember who who they played against. It was
And I know exactly the shot you're talking about, the game winner right in front of the opposing bench, which I love.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
great.
Absolutely insane. So he seems to turn it up into that next level. I mean, based on performances, I think with LaMelo there, and obviously Graham's out, I think the coach has obviously made that right decision in even though I feel his hand was slightly forced with the injuries, but putting Melo in that starting position and have Rozier kind of play off more in that supporting role, finding the spaces and actually finishing those shots instead of more of that playmaker role.
Yeah, and a nod to that, in that Portland game, we are going to talk about it, George, because that's another one of your teams. But there was the Battle of the Mellows, where Melo went crazy in the fourth and was like, hold on, young fella. Okay, let me tell you who the real Melo is. So that was really cool to see. They swapped jerseys. I love to see that, because there's a lot of slander going on about the old guys like hating the new guys, and you just want to see them sort of just get on, like appreciate each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Our fourth team in this division we are going to talk about is again another home team. Not too good, but I will say this: at least you had a player in the All-Star game. You know, at least there's that much going for the Orlando Magic. He didn't have the best of the game on Sunday, but we will talk about that later. Ed, how is it in Disneyland?
So I'm actually repping letters today. So DSP, which obviously stands for Dwight, Shaq, and Penny. That's obviously what DSP stands for. So Orlando isn't looking too good. Last time we spoke, they were 10-18, and now they're 12-23. So a lovely 2-5 7-game time period, and 0-2 this week, which is again just love to see it. During that time period, they split some games against the Pistons, which Wildy spoke about last week. They beat the Warriors, but then also lost to the Hornets. The Hawks, sorry, which again, Wildy spoke about. I did want to mention that in the Warriors game, Vooch did go 30 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists, and 0 turnovers.
Wow.
And yeah,
like that.
You have to see those sort of things, but it's again few and far beyond. And it seems like I'm on repeat, but the injuries is the killer and the kicker. Michael Carter-Williams did come back from a lengthy injury, and that's when we went on a little run. We went on a 3-4 game win streak, and that's because he was our only point guard. Because I mentioned before, we had Aaron Gordon playing point guard and signing guys off 10-day contracts. So yeah, Michael Carter-Williams did come back and had some in the past 8 games. So I did the calculations. In the past 8 games since he's been back in the starting unit, he is 37% from 3, which is pretty good for him, I would say. 43 from 2, and he's averaging 12, 4.5, 6 assists, and only 1 turnover a game, which is pretty decent considering what Orlando has had to work with the whole year. So yeah, not been too great. I think now it's actually tanking time for Orlando. I think they realized they sort of can't carry on where they are right now. There's no sort of light at the end of the tunnel for this year, particularly. So it may have to be watching a lot of March Madness for the scouts.
Yeah, let's stick on the injuries. One of your guys who's been a bit in and out of the lineup is Evan Fournier. So you guys are 10-11 when he plays, but you're 3-12 when he doesn't. Is it a sense of you're taking him for granted?
So going into this is Evan Fournier's contract year. So part of the reason why I wanted to draft him in fantasy, which I ended up picking him up, is a contract year. But he's been dealing with back spasms, so he's been in and out of the lineup for quite a while. And when he does play, it's an outlet for Vooch. So when Vooch does get double teamed, Fournier does get the ball. Fournier has scored a lot when Vooch has done well as well, because there is just so much less defensive pressure on him. And he's outside of Vooch, he's our most reliable shooter, which tells you all you need to know. Terrence Ross can be streaky. I mean, that's with most 6 men, they tend to be a bit streaky, can go hot and cold at times. But Fournier is a bit more reliable, and he can create a shot. For the past 5 or 6 years, or for the majority of the time I've been watching the Magic, Fournier has been Orlando's closer. At the end of the game, the ball goes to him, and he tries to make something, which, yeah, I mean, he's cool, but I think he's just overqualified for his role, which is not his fault. So then the question becomes about trading him. But then the issue of trading him is that how long will he stay on that team for? Will he resign? I'm not sure how much teams would be willing to give up. He could be a great piece. He's a great shooter. Definitely a lot of teams could use him, but I'm not sure how much they'll be willing to give up.
It's a massive risk, isn't it, as well? Like you said, he's in a contract year, so they only get him for half a season. They really need to be productive during that point. It's a really good point that you made. Yeah.
The injuries now as well, because the back spasms, he had it for a little while. He was better, then just got it again. And that's also a big question mark, especially if you're going to go in for half the year.
Speak on the trade rumor mill. Let's continue on that, because as Bray says, the team's bad. Talk about trading.
So
So
Orlando do have a quote unquote core of 5 players. So you've got, as much as you like them or not, it's Markel Fultz, Cole Anthony, Chuma Okeke, Jonathan Isaac, and Mo Bamba. Those are our sort of, so to speak, 5 core players. Everyone else is either older or isn't necessarily part of Orlando's future. Now, that includes bench players and role players, but it also includes players who've been starters for the past 5 or 6 years. That means Aaron Gordon, that means Vucevic, that means Terrence Ross. These could be players potentially on the trade block. Now, the biggest rumors have come for Vucevic and for Fournier and a little bit of Gordon. Gordon always seems to be like on the trade block. I always see Timberwolves always linked with him. You always see Portland linked with him for CJ McCollum. That's always the basic trade always thrown out there. With Vuce, I saw the Hornets and Celtics are very interested in him, but both of them is, will they have the assets? And if they do bring in a young piece, let's say it is Devontae Graham, well, that's where Jonathan Isaac plays. And part of the issue is that Jonathan Isaac has been playing the 3 because Aaron Gordon plays the 4. That doesn't necessarily help. Would they want a guard? Well, if they do get a guard, that means Cole Anthony will potentially then become a bench player, and then it'll be Fultz and whoever that guard will be. So, I mean, you sort of got a call, but then you don't, because you do want better the players, and it seems like Orlando are charging a hard bargain. And part of the conversation is, if they do trade with the Celtics, yes, Celtics will love it and they'll send us a first round pick, but then that first round pick is going to be 25th, 26th, 27th, which, I mean, it's not in the NFL where you can get a lot of good picks in later rounds. The NBA, it tends to be very top heavy. Once you get past the lottery, it's a bit of hit and miss players. So how much is it worth to Orlando? I don't know. I don't really know how they're going to approach it.
do you think, just give me a short answer on this, do you think Vooch is a Magic player at the end of the season?
Yes. And part of it is the conversation coming out is that they still believe that Vooch will still have a lot of value for the young players because it'll make the game easier for them and it'll be a great leader to them. If a team is willing to give up 2 first-round picks and another core young player for Vooch, fair play. The geezer's 30 and still got 2 years left on his contract. So, all right, that's fine with me.
John Collins?
He's been a 7. Pardon?
Do you want John Collins?
No, he's. I think Aaron Gordon's actually a good comparison for him, and I'd rather Aaron Gordon, to be fair, because I think Orlando tends to be a team based on defense as well, and I think Gordon's much better on defensive end than John Collins is.
John Collins is. I reckon John Collins has got a way bigger upside than Aaron Gordon.
I agree.
Offensively, yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I like him a lot more. I mean, I think that's good. That'd be a good trade. I think if it was there for Orlando to get something like that, because the other alternative is if you hold on too long, franchise centers tend to walk out. You've got a little bit of experience there. The thing that is that it doesn't help the forward position because Jonathan Isaac should be and is a 4, but then I mean he's injured half the time, so don't really know where he is. And we've been playing Isaac and Gordon together, and neither one of them is a reliable 3-point shooter. How big's Isaac?
6'10", 6'11", and his wingspan is ridiculous, like 7'5" or something like that.
That's a small ball center, easily.
But he's very lanky and skinny. I'm not sure how he can defend, but having to defend those sort of centers full time is tricky. And that's what Mo Bamba's there for. That's what we got Mo Bamba.
Yeah, and I suppose how many teams have a dominant center? 4?
Orlando.
Yeah,
we do.
There's not that many of them. Everyone else is just playing
that is fair.
He's not in the same league, boy.
I love
barbecue chicken. Yeah. Well, let's see what Orlando do. Let's see what they do.
Hopefully we get Cade. We'll trade up for Cade. Cade come join the Magic.
You might get him anyway.
True say, yeah. Especially because Towns is back, and I'm not sure how the teams lower down are going to do.
I think the Timberwolves are locked into that. And we are going to talk about the Timberwolves later.
I forgot about the Pistons.
Yeah.
This show won't let me forget.
But at the bottom, though, those odds are really flat. It doesn't matter whether you're the worst team, the second worst team, or the third worst team. You've got the same odds.
Yeah, I don't think Magic will be in those bottom three. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's head to the last team in this division, and that is the Miami Heat, who are still at 500. I think they've crawled their way back up. I think maybe they were just below it. So your prediction, Bray, was just off, wasn't it? I think you were saying about 500, and now they are at 500, and now they're looking to really separate themselves into that upper echelon tier of these teams in Miami. So talk to me what's going on in Miami.
Yeah, so as you alluded to, I was a little bit off. I think I said it would be a really difficult job for them to claw their way back to 500 by the All-Star break, but they've done it. They are my ray of sunshine and teams I get to talk about. And I would like everyone to take notice. It's not by much, but they are the best team in this division. Like it's by half a game, but they are the best.
Yep. Oh, sorry, the division is really disappointing.
The Bulls are not as good as them. Yeah, so I'll take that this week. We'll take the small wins where we can. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. Jimmy Butler has been playing a lot more, which is what you like. They're 14-8 with him, and I think if Jimmy had played more games, he would be an all-star. He's been averaging 28, 8, and 2. He's just stacking it. And if he's an all-star, they have a better record. If he plays more, they have a better record. And you could say even Bam's having an all-star year. I think it's just the fact their record was middling was holding them back there. So they've got a really, really key couple of guys at the top, and I'm happy with how they're looking going into the second half of the season.
God, do I miss Jimmy Butler? Well, and also he's a massive. He has such a big effect on this team because since he returned in January 28th, 6 other Heat players are averaging over more than 10 points per game. So, Bray, which player is most effective when Jimmy is on the court? Who takes their game to the next level when Jimmy's on the floor? So
for me, it's Duncan Robinson. And the reason for that is that everyone knows about Duncan Robinson now. Last year, no one knew. No one knew that he was such a good shooter. So he was just walking in to all of these easy, open three-point attempts every game. Now everyone knows. They chase him around like they do to people like Steph, like they do to people like JJ Redick, and make it really, really difficult for him to get off a shot. And when Jimmy Butler's not on the floor, it means the other team's primary wing defender is defending Duncan Robinson because Bam needs a bigger guy on him normally. And it just makes it really difficult. And he is a focal point of a lot of their offense. They run a lot of handoffs and pin downs with him. So when Jimmy's on the floor, it means that he's got a lesser defender on him. There is another threat on the floor. Probably it's very easy to argue a much bigger threat, and it means he's getting way easier looks. He's averaging 12 points on the season. He needs to be doing better than that. So the Heat, the one thing that they've struggled with is sometimes they can't score consistently. So they split those games with the Hawks. The first one they score 120 points. The second one they score 80. You can't be scoring 80 points in this league. That's just not going to work. They need a consistent scorer. They've got Bam and Jimmy who are averaging 20, which is not massive. 20 points is fine. And they've got 3 guys averaging 15 in Hero, Nunn, and Dragic. And then they've got 2 guys in Robinson and Olynyk hovering around that kind of 10, 12-point mark. And they need one of those lesser guys to step up. They need an extra, 5, 10 points out of someone. I think if Robinson can get those looks, I think he's a prime candidate for that.
I read a really interesting article which was talking about the Harden saga over the past 2 months, and the Heat were really close to getting a deal done where they were essentially sending away that young core that really did well for them last year with Hero, Robinson, and all those pieces. And I thought to myself, like, you know, there's so much what ifs in the league. You know, what if Harden is playing in Miami right now? Yeah, just hypothetically. I don't know. What do you think, Bray? Would it work?
I mean, you see what he's doing. Like he's basically a point guard now. Obviously, they would have sent away, maybe Hero and Nunn. And yeah, I think it would have, like, he would have just been playing point guard in Miami. Him and Bam would have been vibing. Jimmy would have been dogging it out. Like, that's a big three. Like, they would be probably sat where the Brooklyn Nets are right now. And one of the reasons that I picked up the Rockets is one of my teams is because I know James Harden is a walking playoff berth. So yeah, I just was hoping that they could maybe work things out. Obviously, it didn't happen. I mean, I still like the team as it is. I think they definitely do have, like, either they need to see someone step up in a big way in literally the next week and go, actually, we think we'll bet on our young core, or they need to make a move and add someone who's going to bring some more scoring to the table, move some of those contracts like Iguodala, who is, you know, not he's bringing a lot defensively, but not very much on offense at all. So that's kind of a key contract you could look to move. There's probably a lot of teams who would look at that and say, oh, actually, yeah, we'd like to have that coming off our books.
So that wraps up the Southeast. Did you want to say something, Juan?
I was just going to say, in talking about what ifs, right? One of the most interesting things would be Jimmy Butler and James Harden, and if they would Jimmy Butler would just end up strangling James Harden after 2 weeks of him not rotating properly on defense. And I just think that would be. Yeah. I'd have some serious questions about how they coexist.
Yeah, and also Pat Riley would not be letting James Harden be going to the strip clubs. he would be on that.
But look at how deferential Harden has been to accommodate the insanity that is Kyrie Irving. Like he's literally just been like, yeah, Kyrie's like, he's been so accommodating. He was like, that first week he was in Brooklyn, he just didn't shoot. He was letting Kyrie shoot like twice the number of shots he was. It's like, what the fuck is going on? This is James Harden. Like, and he basically was like, I'm going to buy into this situation because obviously when he's having a strop and going to strip clubs, he hasn't had success. So maybe I think that Heat culture would have done something for him. I think Jimmy's leadership would have done something for him in the same way that Harden is kind of, you know, turning back the clock almost with working with Durant and Kyrie.
It's the sage. It calmed him down a bit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, man.
We need to do some sage before the podcast.
Yeah.
Come here, James Harden.
Yeah, and he also walked in with a stick yesterday, but we're going to get on with that. Stop. Right, so that wraps up Southeast. Take a short break, and then we're going to head to the Northwest.